Hello and welcome to the Self Care Diaries, a series brought to you by Sussex Squad Self Care, where we explore the different understandings of what self-care is. We'll speak with different people and learn about their self-care routines and hopefully encourage you to take care of yourselves as well. My name is Elena Fuata, and for this episode I was joined by my colleague Tanisha Everett as we spoke with Dr. Ashley Wellman. Dr. Wellman is a scholar, a speaker, an author, an advocate, and a mother. And in my opinion, she's just an all-around great human being. Dr. Wellman spoke to us about her career as a criminologist and her focus on the survivors of homicide and sexual assault. And in our conversation, we explored the idea that the grieving process can be and is in fact a form of self-care. Dr. Wellman's new book, The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno, features her daughter Reagan and her best friend, a sometimes misunderstood skeleton named Fresno. The book is a beautiful message of compassion and friendship in the face of diversity, as well as self-love and acceptance for all the things that make us unique. It was a joy and a privilege to speak with Dr. Wellman, and we hope you like it too. We are joined this morning by Dr. Ashley Wellman. So Ashley is an author, a speaker, and a scholar whose work has centered around homicide and sexual assault and focused on surviving grief and trauma. Her new children's book, The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno, is out now. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, girl, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and start my day off with both of you.
Yes, it's a great way to start the morning. The sun is coming up right now, and get to hang out with some girls.
Yes, girl power.
Yes. Ashley, we are so excited to have you here, as I've said many times, because, you are just, from what I've seen in my brief research, you are just truly talented and intelligent, and I just love talking to women who are all the things. But your work, I was hoping you could talk to us more about your work, especially your focus with surviving grief and trauma.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for the compliments. I'm going to start my day off every day. I'm just going to push play and listen to this podcast and repeat. Thank you so much. I am very humbled with the platform I have to share people's stories. That's what I do. I'm really a storyteller. And so when you become, I have a PhD in criminology, and I think people believe, okay, that makes me this ultimate authority on an issue. The reality is I've just been very fortunate that people have confided in me and trust me with their own experiences and their stories. And so I actually started this avenue of my work while I was getting my PhD from 2008 to 2011 at the University of Florida. And I had gone in with a very different vision. I wanted to do the numbers part, and I wanted to be, a scientist and understand why cases went cold. And all of a sudden a mother came in and she just said, I want to know what the heck, in a different way, what the heck happened to my daughter.
Totally you can curse.
Go ahead. So she said, what the fuck happened to my daughter, right? And I probably was 26 at the time, or 25, 26. One of the detectives I was working for grabs me, pulls me out, and he's like, oh, Ashley will talk to you about your daughter's case. And I thought, I will? Okay. So I go in and, I'm sitting there with her. I talked to her for about 4 hours. And after that meeting, I really was transfixed on this idea of what happens to families after they experience significant trauma, and especially this unsolved homicide realm. So I went home to research everything I could about it. That's what a good little PhD student does. And there wasn't anything there. It is interesting how we view victims and how we look at crime, where we're fixated on the offender, where we allow people, just like in grief in general, we allow people these very short windows to be considered part of the process. And then we expect everybody to kind of resume normalcy. And so I said, there has to be a way to share these family stories. And so I set off interviewing, working with families who had lost someone to an unsolved murder. That translated into being able to connect with homicide survivors in general, those with solved and unsolved cases. And then I work on a college campus. And so I sought out becoming a confidential sexual assault advocate. And I'm not any longer doing that in that role, but the stories and the way that I was able to support those survivors, males and females alike, was just really such a defining part of my life.
In preparing for this, I've been thinking a lot about grief, and it's something that is so personal and unique to the individual, but it is still a universal human experience. And it's an experience that everybody goes through, but goes through it very differently.
So differently. And then the problem becomes, because it's taboo and we haven't talked about it, we go to this default script of saying, she's not grieving enough. He's not grieving enough. He's grieving too much. She's grieving too much. She's unhealthy. He's healthy. And we have all of these nice little compartments we want to put people in. And that's just not how it works. And I think because we haven't spoken about it, and because we don't confront grief until it happens to us, honestly, then we aren't as patient, and we're not as understanding. We're not as available to help support somebody, not because we don't want to, but because we don't know how.
Yeah. And I think for me personally, when I have gone through my own grief process and had my own grief stories, something that always got me, when people would say, I know how you feel.
I think you nailed it right there. People, really, the ultimate goal, no one's trying to be hurtful. I think most people try to approach supporting somebody by fixing it. They want to be a fixer, because trauma and grief is often found in the darkest moments of our life. And as human beings, it makes us feel lost and helpless when someone's struggling in front of us. And so I think the ultimate thing is, okay, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to be able to fix that. And so I'm going to explain things like, for me, miscarriages, or the loss of my husband, or these different kinds of things. People are going to explain it to you in a way that feels good to them. And hopefully then it's comforting to you. And the reality is it's not. So things like you said, I understand, right? Or don't worry, how far along were you in that pregnancy? Oh, okay, well, that's good that it wasn't too far along, right? Or saying things like, well, you can try again, or you can get remarried, or your son's in heaven, he's in a better place. These different kinds of sentiments we offer, right? It's from a good place, but it's very hurtful, because it says something's wrong with you for feeling. And, let's stop that. People get really uncomfortable. So I think one of the best things you can do, and I had a girlfriend just call me the other night, and my phone rang at 11 o'clock, and I was crawling into bed, and I was like, I'm not going to answer this. And then I stopped and I said, something's wrong, or she wouldn't have called. So I call her back, and I said, are you crying? Right? And she said, yeah. And she was talking to me about the loss of a career path, right? And saying that it was something that started with the death of her son. She had done this legacy project for her son, and now her health is not allowing her to continue that. And so she was grieving the loss of this path, right? And she said, I got a decision to make right now. I need to do this. I said, no, you don't. You need to embrace the suck, is what you need to do right now. And tonight, you don't need to make any decision. You need to cry and be mad. And this is unfair, and this is hurtful, and that's okay. You get to experience that part. You have to experience that part. And then next week, let's talk about what you need to decide. I said, don't do that to yourself right now, right? Right now, the reality is this sucks, and it's not fair. And that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about it.
Yeah.
So I actually said that to someone recently too.
Yes,
yeah, keep going.
Right? Embrace the suck. That's what
I want that on a t-shirt.
I know, it's true. It's true.
Let's make one, girls. Let's make one.
Yes.
Oh my God, we seriously should. Embrace the suck, and then Sussex Squad on the back. I'm ready. I'm ready.
And it's true though, because I think a lot of times what we try to do is, and I had to learn this, because what's really funny about me is I've been going through grief since I was a little kid, starting with the loss of my sister when I was 6. So I, like, every couple of years, there was a major loss in my life from childhood up until adulthood, right? And then as an adult, I started going through the process again. So I'm always in this grief conversation. And for a long time, I didn't even know how to deal with it with other people or talk to other people about it. And because in our society, in the West specifically, we teach people that they only are supposed to embrace the good emotions, right? And whereas, grief and sadness and anger are bad, don't embrace those. No, push it out of the way. And in the studying of Eastern philosophy on my end, I realized grief is a part of life. It is the cycle of life. We all go through it. You grieve the loss of a relationship. You grieve the death of someone you're close to. You grieve celebrities that you love. You grieve the loss of a job. There's a lot of things that we grieve, but we are so afraid to embrace those, what I call darker emotions, that we run from them, and in the process of running from them, we end up creating a bigger monster in the process.
That's it. It breaks you down. So I know it, when we don't deal with the trauma and we don't allow ourselves to experience those emotions, they get locked inside of our body. It is a physical consequence of not really owning those emotions and not feeling safe enough to have an ability to express them. And so not only do you have the physical consequences, then you have this emotional prison you've created around yourself. And a lot of people struggle to say, okay, how do I dull that without alcohol or drugs or binging on something? And the reality is you can't dull it away. You have to process it. You have to experience it. So I tell people a lot. So one of the things I would tell someone trying to help someone, you've got to allow them to feel. And if you're going to truly support, you've got to be there to support the good, the bad, and the ugly, because you can't fix it. I had a friend call the other day. She said, you're going to be able to help this girl because she's a widow too. She has, a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old. And you had a little one when you lost your husband. And I said, okay, let me say one thing. I would love to connect with her. I can't necessarily directly help her because her journey will look dramatically different than mine based on a million factors, millions. What was her relationship like with her husband? What's her bond like with her kids? What's her personality? What's her family support? All of those things. What's her financial situation? All of those things dictate how we're able to, not even can, right? How we're able to start putting the pieces together. And so I said, but here's one of the things. They said, how can I help fix it for her? And I said, you can't. But what you can do is you can be there and show up, good, bad, ugly, without judgment. And I don't need you to tell me it's okay. It's not, right? My job is gone. My relationship's gone. My spouse is gone, whatever it is, right? It's not there anymore. And so the reality is I need to process that loss, and then I can start rewriting my story for myself. But I have to experience the loss. You don't get to skip over the bad parts. You can either hoard them and break down, right, internally, or you can embrace them. And so for someone trying to support someone, I remember that one of the hardest questions ever was, Ashley, how do I help you? Like, what do you need from me? I want to help. I thought, I don't know how to help myself, so like in my own grief journeys. So one of the things I tell people now, I'm like, send gift cards to Amazon or a grocery store or Grubhub or whatever it is, because the only thing that I knew I need is I have to eat. There's these random things I got to pay for. And in the midst of especially death, there's so many random expenses that buying school supplies feels like trauma because I don't know how I'm going to cover rent. So those kinds of things where just having access to a drawer full of like gift cards and saying, I don't have to think about dinner tonight. I'm just going to order it. And I don't have to feel bad that there's a $20 delivery charge associated with it because I'm not paying it, so like that's super helpful. And like I said, the genuine showing up. I remember sometimes I would think in my own grief journey, I wish people would just go away. That would have been the worst thing ever. Yes. Because I just kept being like, I just want to be alone. I just want to be alone. I didn't, but if I could be alone, I could just forget about what was going on. And so I'm grateful that people didn't let me be alone, right? And one of the things that I think is important to understand is that you have to remind people that there's no normal to go back to. There's no old life to go back to when loss happens. And so I know for me, one of the things I would tell families is create a new normal. Give yourself permission to have a new normal, new traditions, new this and that. And there's no disrespect to whatever was lost, right? So to find joy again, to smile again, to find a new passion, none of that says I didn't care about what was gone or, and I don't value or respect what I lost. But I also am giving myself permission to not force back into an old person, life, career, whatever it was that I had before this traumatic event, because the reality is that trauma changes us and it doesn't always have to be a negative thing, right? I remember one of the most hurtful things ever said to me was, you're not the woman we fell in love with. This was at my work. And I remember thinking, I fought it so hard. I was like, how dare you say that? Yes, I am that woman. because I thought I had fought so hard to prove, even in grief, that I could accomplish and I could, be this really, amazing scholar. And then I had to have a therapist tell me, Ashley, you're not that same woman. And there's power in that. You don't have to fight to be that same woman, because a new woman isn't a bad woman. And it doesn't mean that the things you loved about yourself or the skills you had or the accomplishments you had went away. But if you refuse to allow yourself to be a new woman, you are trapped inside of saying that life event didn't change you, and it did. So use that, right? Use that as power. And that kind of shifted my thought of going, you're right. I've been telling families all along, like, create something new. And then when you look in the mirror and you go, I got to do something new. You don't want to do that.
That almost feels traumatic too.
Right. And it really is. It's a growing, very, very traumatic process of rediscovering yourself when you thought life was kind of figured out, when you thought things were secure and stable, and then they get swept out from underneath of you. But it's also a moment to redefine yourself. And so I think there's fear in succeeding and failing when we change both, right? Like, I'm almost scared to succeed, and I'm equally scared to fail, because I liked the comfort. I like being comfortable in the uncomfortable, whatever it is. So it's very difficult to put yourself out there. But for people looking in, you can't fix it. You can't have an expectation of what that person is supposed to be doing, right? I've had things said, like, if you're crying next year, I'm going to be very concerned about you. Why are you singing and happy? Because, this is a sad moment. And it's going, there isn't a right way to do this. And there are days and moments that sneak in that take you to the darkest places ever. Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, you're laughing at something. So you've got to give people a break. Yeah. There is no perfect model, but because I think people are scared to not have a directory of, a rule book, they dictate to other people, this is not what I would be doing. This is not what it should look like. And so therefore you're wrong and you're bad, make it normal. The reality is it's just not normal.
How is grief or grieving self-care?
Oh my God, it's everything. It is absolutely self-care. So when you're grieving, you're processing and you're giving yourself the permission to feel. And so I think that you have to say part of grief is slowing down and getting comfortable in the psychological, the physical, the emotional parts of reassessing the situation around you. And it's not running from it. It's not hoarding the emotions. It's feeling. And for me, part of that was saying, okay, I have to do two things. I have to grieve on my own because I need to be very responsible for my health, right? And do this and that. But I also then had to step out and say, I also now have to grieve with my daughter, right? And I tell people this, there's two grieving things happening at the same time. Grief with your family, which is critical, and grief with yourself. Because I think we do one or the other and we don't connect the two. And then that adds to further damage to ourselves, right? Because we bring on strained relationships, we bring on judgment from people that is just really a miscommunication. So I think grief requires you, if you're going to do it right, requires you to say, you've got to stop. You've got to stop for a minute. And in America, especially, and in 2020, stopping is just not normal. And so now coronavirus was the best thing to ever happen to me because it forced us to slow down. And now when I say great, it wasn't pretty. It just forced me to stop. And when we stop, you have to confront what the problem is. You have to confront what the pain is. You have to confront, why am I physically ill? Well, you know what, Ashley, because you're not doing what you've told other people to do. And that's take care of yourself. And so whether you're going to get on a bike and cry and ride and, listen to Allie Love on Peloton and just cry every time you do her ride. God, she makes me cry all the time. Or you're going to take a hot bath with wine and take a moment to just think through the day and okay, what am I feeling? Where am I? Grounding yourself. And so I think grief becomes self-care. Grieving becomes self-care if you do it. Right? If you do it, because it's easier to say, I'm fine and keep going. But what you're doing is you're literally killing yourself from the inside out is what you're doing. Doing the therapy, these kinds of things. If you're really going to grieve, There's so much required. And we don't give people the space to do that. We do say, oh, cool, you know what? Take those 3 days and then come back and don't make it an issue, right? Come back to work.
3 days.
Yeah, right? Like, or whatever it is. I was very blessed. I got several months after the death of my husband at work. But even coming back after that, I think there was this expectation, like, please don't be the widow. Like, don't bring that here. You know what I mean? And I think we forget that it is a lifelong battle to say, now that's part of my story. So there are going to be moments where I'm vulnerable or emotional or maybe frustrated for something you don't understand, but you just have to realize, like, we're just humans existing in this moment. The things that I will forever be an educator, a scholar, an advocate, but maybe the place that I wanted to do that isn't the same as it was. And for me, that was another grief moment, was saying, who am I if I'm not this? What happens to me if I lose that identity? And so I think having to rediscover who I am just as a woman and what my potential is beyond what society's defined as my potential, that's a scary and really terrifying moment. But it has the potential. If you'll give yourself permission to say, I'm better than this, I'm more than this, I don't have to be locked into just this, right? Then we have the ability to kind of recreate what we want out of our life.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about previously. Tanisha and I personally believe that self-care, like the foundation of it, you have to know yourself, because you have to know how to care for yourself. And then when you go through these changes in life, it's understanding who this person is and reacquainting yourself with that.
Yeah. And like we said, give yourself the permission to grow.
Yeah.
Right. And not be afraid.
Is painful.
Yes, it is not fun, but giving yourself the permission to say, I didn't get here by accident. I have a lot of skills and a lot of emotions and a lot of people around me. So I'm going to be all right. But I need to give myself the permission to change and grow.
Yeah.
That I tell people too is, and this is something that I literally, when I say literally learned, like last year, there is no there to get to.
No. And when we get
Stop
there,
trying to get there.
And when we get there, guess what?
There's more
another
there.
place to get. I lived like that for so many years, and I still struggle with it. I've got to remind myself of that. I would say, okay, you want to be successful, Ashley? What award could you get to show people and put it on your Vita? What is another line you can put on your Vita that says, your resume, that says, I'm good enough? So I would say, okay, I'm going to win this teaching award. Cool, I won it. And instead of having any joy associated with that, all I said was, good, if I can do that, what's the next thing that I can do? And it became this rat race of pressure.
There.
And yes, and always, I do this with everything. Once I have my book in my hand, I'm going to be happy. Once I do this, I'm going to be happy. And the reality is you need to take moments, not products, not end results, moments along the journey and celebrate. So I've been trying to force myself to say, guess what else is special? That really great cup of coffee you had this morning, or the fact that you got to see an illustration, not the book, an illustration, not even a done illustration, right? That you got a sneak peek of that, or that someone reached out to you and said like how cute the book was. Okay, so those moments, that should be a celebration, and not this end point that does not exist, because once that one book's there, then I need the next book, and then I need this award, and then if I don't get that, I'm not happy. Pinning your happiness and health and hope on an end product, we miss that whole journey. And I'm learning, and I'm not there yet, but I'm learning about the importance of being present and trying to look around you. I remember just the other day, actually, I was on the phone with my therapist and I said, okay, so I'm struggling because I have this to-do list. And as an artist, it seems like that to-do list is infinite, right? I could have a million things that I should be doing. And she was like, first of all, let's reword that. It's not should, it's you could be doing those things. So yes, you could be doing all of those things. Make a list. And she's like, and whatever you want to tackle that day, check it off, because it's going to be there. The reality is it's going to be there another day. And she said, but don't forget, when you're in the bath or when you're like winding down, start considering what you did accomplish that day, and embrace and celebrate yourself for what you did accomplish. And it might be brushing your teeth, or maybe not even doing that. Right? But whatever it is.
I didn't shower today, great.
But you did have clean underwear on. So like, whatever, maybe not that. Yeah. But whatever it is, find something as you lay your head down at night, instead of letting yourself be thinking about all the things you didn't accomplish, all the things you messed up. What about saying, what is something I'm really proud about myself? I'm proud of myself for these things tonight. And what didn't I accomplish? Oh, I got Reagan through her online learning today. Everyone's alive and healthy. And I took the dog out like I was supposed to. Cool, that's enough. And put your head down, And then other days we'll have these victorious days where we slay this list and we're doing so great. But that day's no more valuable or important than the days where we didn't do things. And I'm even learning to do this, which is don't tell a lot of people, right? Everyone listening, don't tell anybody. But I'll even do days where I'm like, it's not going to happen today. I need a cup of coffee, maybe 2 or 3 baths with my favorite bath bombs. And that's all that's going to happen today. I need to lie down and close my eyes for 30 minutes because I'm really struggling. And so I'm giving myself permission, and this is new for me, to say, it's not going to happen today. I wish it would. I've got 7 students who have emailed me and need a response. I have 80 people I could be calling today to get Fresno out there, all of this. Not today. It'll be there tomorrow,
I did that yesterday.
Yes. And that's good, but it's so good because then I wake up the next day and I'm so much more productive because I literally just didn't have it that day. And some days we force ourselves into these patterns, but some days it's just even the force part, it's not going to happen. And instead of being mad at myself, I give myself permission to say, I'm gonna try to wake up tomorrow and be a champion and knock those things off my list, but not today.
Yeah. The give myself permission part is something I am still learning and will probably always be trying to improve upon. That is so hard.
Yes.
It is so hard, but it's so vital.
But it wouldn't be hard for you if Tanisha asked you what she should be doing. That's what's crazy to me. Yeah. Like if you said, hey, Ashley, I'm really feeling like I'm too fat. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not being productive enough. I'd be like, you need to shut your mouth. I will not listen to that. You are gorgeous. You are one of the most fearless women I know. You are so talented. And I would mean it. But then I would go get in my bathtub and go, wow, you're not pretty enough. You're not good enough. You didn't accomplish enough, to myself.
Yeah.
But we're so good, right? At the people we really love, letting them know how valuable they are. You've got to do that to yourself. You have to. And sometimes it requires me talking to myself like I'm a different person. So as loony as that sounds, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, Ash, I'm really proud of you. You need to stop. You are beautiful the way you are. You want to know why you have that extra fat roll hanging over your waist? Because you have a beautiful baby. And because you love food and you got to have an awesome social event and be with people you love and eat. And it just is what it is. So it's, I sometimes literally do. I'll either pause and talk to myself like I do a best friend or like I do my child. And you wouldn't say the things that go through your head, at least for women, I think, the negative self-talk we do to ourselves, we would never allow someone we love to say about themselves.
Yeah.
Treat yourself like your own best friend.
Yes.
And that's
I won't love myself, who else is going to?
I've heard that. I've been doing that since, I think I was in a transformational workshop in 2017, and that's the first time I heard that. And then I read a quote that Meghan Markle said something similar. And it's very true. Like, it was like 2017 was the year of being your own best friend. That's the year I went through hell.
Yes, you're like, I don't want to be her friend. I don't like this.
And then when I went, so last year I spent 6 months at an ashram. So, I know, right? It was just like,
was it amazing?
End of my contract. It was the end of my contract with Facebook. And I just saved up my unemployment and flew to Thailand and spent 6 months at an ashram.
Was it amazing?
Absolutely terrifyingly amazing.
Yes.
The first couple of months, I resisted like hell. Every time they would tell, so I'm a yoga instructor. So every time, and if you want to join us on Saturdays, we do yoga and meditation.
Yep.
And I lead the yoga and Kimberly leads the meditation.
Okay.
But the first couple of months, they were like, the yoga, it's tantric yoga. So it's like relax. every single time they say relax, I wanted to throw something. Like, what do you mean relax? What the fuck? I'm not relaxing for shit. Like, no. And then I had the whole other thing going in my head, like, girl, you're 43 years old. What are you doing at an ashram, chilling out? You should be working. What's going on with your career? You're almost 50. You don't have money saved. I mean, like, all of that.
You are not almost 50. I said that the other day. I'm like, I'm 36. I'm almost 40. And it was like, calm down. Chill out.
I'm 12, so it's...
Yeah, that's fine. 21. I meant 21.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and I know a lot of that is very much an American thing. And that's one of the things at the ashram that they teach you is to break down your social conditionings. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing that I thought was freaking beautiful was all the European people there, they didn't have they were just like, yep, I took a year off. I've taken 2 and 3.
They also go take whatever they take in the afternoon. They go take naps and eat some great food with their family and drink wine and then go back to work. Hell yeah!
I haven't taken a nap since 2012.
What the hell, Elaine? I take naps
every day,
all the time.
Physically impossible for me, but I'm working on that. I do lay down.
I sprinkle some Cheerios on the floor for my daughter and like a cup of water. And then I'm like, I gotta go take a nap. So, best of luck.
Thank you.
It's so true. And it was great being around that energy because it took me a couple of months to like, I didn't need sometimes, and it's what's really hilarious is you don't even realize how much you internalize it until you're in the situation. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, that's very American of me. That's very American. I need to be a productive member of society. I am being a productive member of society by taking care of myself and dealing with my trauma and my pain and allowing myself to surrender to the grief of the loss of the human being. Because I think about like, I've gone through so many metaphors. My friend says that I have a branding change. She said, you rebrand yourself every 3 years.
Yes, that's awesome though. How brave is that? That's awesome.
I resisted all the way to the end. Yes. And then I finally give into it. And I'm just like, because I was always afraid of the process.
Yes.
I would do everything in my power to avoid the process. Mm-hmm. And it was literally making me crazy. And I had several friends who I ended up losing as friends. It was like, I'm going to need you to stop fighting the process.
Yes.
And it was at the ashram that I finally learned to surrender. I used to have panic attacks in Shavasana.
Mm-hmm. Shavasana. My favorite pose. Let me just lay here. Yeah.
Right.
Highly round.
Oh my gosh, you are right though. I remember I'll get a massage and the person will say, relax your shoulders. And I'm going, I am. Aren't I relaxed? Do I not look relaxed? No. And then I'm like physically, that I'm really not relaxed. I don't look relaxed. No? I don't know what you're saying. I feel like I'm really relaxed.
So we cannot finish this conversation without talking about your new book because, and I wanted to save this for when we started recording because I don't know if it was my hormones or if I've just gone soft, but I teared up reading it because I was thinking about how beautiful, first of all, the illustrations, but the message in your book. And I thought about how I wish I had this when I was a child. And I was telling Tanisha yesterday that I don't have children, but I always think of the parents when I come from a big family. And so there are tons of children. So every time there's a birthday or Christmas or something, I think of the parents and I never get a toy that makes noise.
Yes. Thank you.
I always get a book. And this is going to be my new book that I give everybody for gifts. I'm just so excited. And so would you please talk more about my Friend Fresno? Oh, I have to add that I'm a big bone fan. I don't know. Like, I love
Same.
skeletons. My very favorite Halloween costume ever. I did my makeup up like a skeleton. My name was anatomically incorrect. That was my.
I may steal that.
Yeah,
no, steal that.
Go ahead. It is free to share. So if you could please talk about your wonderful book.
I would love to talk about my wonderful book. So here's what I did. I gave myself permission to say, when society is shutting doors or trying to define who I am, I'm going to fight back. And I'm going to take control of who I want to be in the story I want to tell. And for me, those critical pieces are being that advocate, being that teacher, and being someone who celebrates that things that are scary don't have to be scary, right? And that we can really learn to dance with skeletons and not be uncomfortable. And so the book was inspired by my daughter, Reagan. She is 6 now, but when she was 2, I'm a criminologist. So in my office, I had this posable skeleton I wanted to get. So I go to Walgreens, I get him, and I go back home, and she says, "This is my best friend, Fresno. You can't take him to the office." And she was 2. So I remember looking at Buddy and saying, "This is weird. I'm weird, but should she be weird?"
Girl after my own heart.
Yes. And he said, "Let her have him. Who cares?" So she started with Fresno when she was 2, and they would take naps together, and they would, go get a bath together. She would make sure he did anything that she got to do. And so then he started going on trips with us and going through security with TSA and everything else. And he became a part of our family. And so when I was grieving, a friend gave me permission to say, break what your norm is and start creative writing. Give yourself a break. Turn to something that you haven't done in a long time. And for me, art and performing arts has always been a passion. It's been a way to express myself. I wanted to be on Broadway, but I cannot sing on demand. I clam up. So yoga gives you panic attacks. If I have to audition for something, I'm gonna have a panic attack and then be really angry because I would have killed it had I gotten the part, right? So I gave that dream up, but I said, I'm going to return to creative writing. So I started writing The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno, about Reagan. I got teamed up with the brilliant, you talked about those illustrations. It is an art book and a precious story. I hope it's a precious story too, because I know it is a phenomenal art book.
Yes.
And it's Zachary Thompson Kincaid is the nephew of Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light, one of the best, selling, most prolific American artist ever. But the neat thing is that Zach is this beast of an artist of his own. He is the talents from the family, but his talent is so uniquely his. It's beautiful. And he told me, "Ash, I'm not an illustrator, I'm an artist." And I said, "Oh, I know. That's why I want you to do this." And so My Friend Fresno starts with, "I used to be afraid of monsters under my bed, but now I welcome them. I've learned things that are scary are often just misunderstood." Mm-hmm. And to me, I wrote this in 2018. It's 2020. We are scared of people of different races, of different religions, of different political beliefs, of different sides of any kind of controversial issue, of sexual identities and gender identities and all of these different things. When the reality is we're all humans. And the reason you're scared is for some reason you think that's a threat to you, right? Or you aren't comfortable getting to take the time to understand the human behind that belief. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I'm going, oh my God, this message I wrote just really about being nice to people who are different is now so profound. The book takes you from Reagan meeting this little skeleton who's scared in her closet, right? Her skeleton's in her closet. Mm-hmm. And saying, "Hey, come out here, be my friend, because I like you because you are different. I like you because you're different." So Reagan will say, something like, "I have blonde hair and Fresno has, well, no hair at all." And then she'll tell you all the reasons that even though they're so different, that they make this amazing duo, right? Because they're different. And so he's a dapper dance partner. He's an amazing art critic who says her work is jaw-dropping, right? And at the very end, the reality is, one, a lot of people have started to love Fresno because there's been this opening up, right? When I love somebody, other people start to say, well, maybe they're not that scary, right? Because I allow them to see my love for them. And so that message is there, right? More friends come to be Fresno's friend. But most importantly, Fresno started to love himself. And Reagan's learned a lot from him too. It doesn't matter if we look the same, if we like the same thing, or if we come from the same types of families, because sometimes our greatest friends are the ones we least expect. Make no bones about it.
That was my favorite line.
Oh, it's so cute. So for adults reading it, there's these puns. For older kids, if they were reading to younger siblings, there's these really great messages and funny parts and funny pictures. And I just believe in it so much, not because of the business side of it, but because my prayer is that it's something that is a vessel to start conversations about why is the little one in your life so special, even when there's things that society might say isn't special about them, right? Or that might make them different. So Reagan is forever different because she's experienced trauma and witnessed the death of her father. And, you know, we have donuts with dad and all these different things that she doesn't have her partner there, her daddy there. And I tell her, you know what, Reagan? Yes, that is unfair and it stinks. Embrace the suck, right? Put her little embrace the suck t-shirt on. But
we're going to make that t-shirt.
Yeah, we should. Maybe we have to say stink for kids, but we'll see. But you know, I tell her, but you know what, Reagan, you are so empathetic and you are so kind and you are so loving because you know pain. So there's something to be celebrated there. You'll never know what a special human you are in other people's lives because you've been through that, right? And so like we've stopped people in the airport or something and I'm going, Reagan, what are you doing? You know, and she'll run up to someone. She's like, I love your arm. I love your leg. And it'll be a prosthetic arm or leg. She's like, you are so pretty, you know? And I'm going, yes, because I've been trying to tell her everything that makes someone different is a power. That's a superpower that they have. And so instead of running from it, saying, well, how could you make my life richer because we're not the same, is really, really powerful. And so that's my hope for this book, is that little ones and adults alike reading it start to say, how are you special? And then how are the people around us that are different? What can we learn from them instead of running away from it? And so I'm pumped. If people want to get their hands on Fresno, it is www.myfriendfresno.com. And you can follow our adventures at My Friend Fresno. Here's what I'm going to do when I hang up the phone, because I didn't do this yet. I'm going to jump on and make Sussex 20 a coupon code for people so that they can get on and save 20% off their order. And my international fans, anyone who's not in the US, you can get the ebook version. It's available for instant download. Like right now, that's where I'm starting. Eventually I'll have my Amazon platform up, but right now you guys can grab the ebook. Anyone in the US can grab the ebook and get the pre-orders of the book, the plush doll, the puzzles, and jump on and enter that code at www.myfriendfresno.com, and they can join our skeleton crew.
Yes. And you all, I have to say, I was doing a little Instagram stalking. You and your daughter are so hilarious.
Thank you.
On there. I love the TikTok videos. So definitely people need to go check you out. And where else can people find you and your work?
Okay, so for Dr. Ashley Wellman, the criminologist, you can go find me at www.ashleywellman.com, and that gives you some of my contact information. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dr. Ashley Wellman, but Fresno's on there too, so if you want to follow that whimsical journey, that's the at My Friend Fresno.
Wonderful.
I was just going to say, I felt like there were so many layers to that story. Because for me, I was looking at this also in the way how we are taught to bury.
That just rattled my bones. Keep going.
Yes, I love puns so much.
Bury parts of ourselves that are seen as not socially acceptable, and how we put them in the closet. Right?
Yes.
And once we embrace those parts of ourselves, that's what makes people love us. Really.
Yes. And just not being afraid to be who you are. Is this how you felt when you were reading that, how sad and lonely you felt at this?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
That's the one that makes me cry.
Yep.
Is that where you cried? I said, Fresno, don't be sad. But for anyone who's watching right here, it says, it made him feel sad and lonely. People were picking on him. And it says, it made him feel sad and lonely. Did they think he didn't have a heart? Right? And then, but don't worry, because it gets so fun, right? He does. He starts to really say, she says, the things that make us different make us special. Mm-hmm. And it starts to become this celebration of, if people got to know Fresno, everyone would want him for a best friend, right? It really is just taking time to start to understand these things. And grief, I mean, my goodness, I never thought of it like this, but grief is this thing that we say, I don't want to know it. I don't want to know it. It's scary. the reality is we're dancing with skeletons and monsters every day. And so you can either be scared of them, or you can start welcoming them in, right, and letting them be a part of your life and dancing with them, because it's not going to go away. They're not going anywhere. So This is my favorite. I love this part where Reagan's there eating with her, with her little monster friends, right? Just embrace them. Yeah. Just embrace them. So whatever monster, demon, skeleton you have hanging out in your life, your heart, whatever, pull it out and say, let's dance together. Let's do this. I'm ready to tango, right? And then how does that then make us more empowered and more ready to kind of take on the world and love the people who are around us?
Absolutely. And I'm getting that plush doll, okay? Because my favorite holiday is Halloween. And I too love skeletons.
You're gonna love him. And he's 12 inches. So cute. He's the softest thing ever, and he's embroidered. So it's very, very sweet. It's not printed. I was very high maintenance. I was like, do it again.
Yes.
Do it again. I love him. He's got a little bottom. Yeah, he's like, oh, he's so cute.
Yeah, no.
I need that in my life. I don't have any kids in my life, but I need that plush doll.
You'll love him. And then you can
dance
dance
for your inner child.
Yes. I am such a kid. I will admit and acknowledge that, okay?
That's exactly right. Well, you tell me. Fresno's on his way.
I gotta get Fresno.
Oh my gosh. Ashley, I mean, we could probably continue talking
for I love you, girls.
Hours. The feeling is absolutely mutual, but we do want to respect your time. And I just thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, ladies, so much. And let me know where I can come to yoga. I may have the panic attacks too, but we'll figure it out together. And then let me know when we're making our t-shirts.
Yes. Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. Also, the cool thing about the yoga as well is you do it with your eyes closed, so you're not in competition.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, I love that. So we will send you the link so you can sign up. We have 3 times during Saturday.
Perfect.
And you can come whenever you want and turn off your camera if you want to and just sink in.
It might be Fresno, Reagan, and I. The girl who dances with skeletons, Perfect. Fresno, and me will join.
Yes,
that would be great.
Yes, we need the star.
Give me Fresno!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, watch this. Here's the real Fresno. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Fresno.
Hi, guys. Great bone structure, even in this lighting.
Yes.
Ready to rock and roll. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Self Care Diaries. And if you've made it this far, you're already well on your way in your own self-care journey. You can purchase Ashley's new book, The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno, at myfriendfresno.com. Be sure to use the code Sussex20 at checkout and follow along with all of their adventures at myfriendfresno on social media. Dr. Wellman's work can be found at ashleywellman.com, and her Twitter handle is Dr. Ashley Wellman. Be sure to follow Sussex Squad Self-Care to stay up to date on all that we have going on at Squad Sussex on Twitter and at Squad Self-Care on Instagram. Tanisha is at the AHA Experience on Instagram, and you can find more of her work at theahaexperience.co. I'm at Elena Fuata on all social media. Thank you again for watching. We hope to see you in the next episode, and take care.